Good morning.
What's up, everybody?
Happy February.
It's February. Wow, that's crazy.
The best month ever.
Why is that? Why is February the best month ever?
Because it was the month I came into the world. The world was blessed with me in February. Okay, why does it change?
I can actually see.
Time after it starts, it changes.
I don't know. Oh, the filter? That looks like dirty.
That's
Looks
not
like
what
your
we
camera's
want.
dirty.
What in the world?
That's weird.
What did you do? What did you change?
Hey, Evelyn.
It was set, and then we started, and then it did some crazy stuff.
Craziness, as it always
I
does.
think we're good. I can see comments. Natalie is on.
Okay, so today, well, first off, before we get into the topic, we're talking about macros today.
We're talking about macros, mastery, how to master your macros.
Before we do that, what's going on with us this week? Anything last week anything happening besides your birthday coming up?
I haven't even thought about that yet. A little bit.
No.
A little bit. I have a wish list. You keep asking for. My mom keeps asking for.
Right. What do you want for birthday?
Can we just talk about this though?
Babe, we talk about this all the time.
I just noticed it again.
I'm poking you
in the camera. That's the vein that likes to pop. I should name that vein because that's the one. This bicep vein. This one.
Is that Samantha and Caitlin?
I don't have one on the other side.
Samantha and Caitlin. That's the name of your veins.
Why?
I don't know. Just that's what popped in my head.
That's interesting. There's no Caitlin. Caitlin's not there.
Caitlin's right. What do you mean?
Well, the forearms are insane, but the bicep, it only really pops on the right side.
You got a little bit going on here.
On the left. Yeah, we're getting lean. That's what's happening. We're getting lean.
We're getting lean. All right.
I didn't get lean this past week because Mother Nature's kicking my butt right now.
Big time.
Perimenopause.
Kicking my butt too.
Weird wonky cycle right now. Hi, men who are on, who I'm sure want to hear all about that. But this is the kind of stuff we go through.
We gotta deal with. Life is life.
In our 40s, ladies.
Hey, I'm dealing with it too.
You are. It is affecting you. It is affecting him as well.
Damn it.
So yeah, very different things, wonky things happening with my cycle right now. I am going to start a new series on YouTube to document.
I thought of something that happened this week. Go ahead.
To document this year and all of the preps that I'm doing, because I'm doing multiple preps this year. And this is different for me. I don't usually do more than one show in a year. Usually I'll only compete once a year. So right now I'm prepping for the Arnold. I'm not competing at the Arnold, but I'm participating in the Angel Competition Bikinis fashion show, which I did last year in Baltimore. And this year I decided to participate in the one at the Arnold Sports Festival. So we are officially 4 weeks out to that, inside the 30-day window. So this past week has been not really a cut, even though I started my cut because my cycle. So that's been weird.
Cycle.
So this week for me is what I feel like will really be the
you say that as far as how your body's changed, but you've been acting.
Cut.
You have been you've been doing the things.
I've started the actions that are cutting.
Right. It's not like you said,
process.
"Oh, I'm on my cycle. I don't give a crap."
Right. Actually, I should talk about that on my YouTube series so that I don't take over the entire coffee chat. But I could.
But speaking of your cycle and whatever, all that stuff, you did finish something this week.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I would have forgotten to talk about that. So last year I decided to get a menopause specialist coaching certification through Girls Gone Strong, which is a really incredible training certification program.
They have a bunch of different.
They have a lot of different programs.
They do a really good job putting their programs together.
Yes, specifically for women. Everything is aimed at women, pre and postnatal, this was a new one that they started offering last year, the menopause certification. And that is who I serve, is women going through, getting ready to go through, having gone through menopause, already in postmenopause. Everyone that I serve is in that camp, because all of the ladies that I work with are most 40 plus, some are late 30s, but most of my ladies are above 40, 50, 60 in that camp. So I just finished that certification this week, got the credential. So what I'm committing to doing with that is sharing more menopause specific content, how to think about training, diet, mindset, talking about hormones, talking about how these things impact our journey, and all of the intricacies and nuances that that involves. So I'll be doing a lot more content focused on that. And then, bringing some of the things that were highlighted in that certification, the education piece of that, the content that they shared, into my coaching, into my programs, and into my general content on my social media. So, yeah.
Yay. Okay, so what we're talking about today is what I like to call a lighthouse topic. Okay, if you're not familiar with that,
I like this concept.
I have this philosophy as a content creator, as a coach, as an educator in health and fitness, that there are certain principles and concepts, you guys have heard me talk about that don't change. And the information that we provide should be consistent and sustainable and long-term. You're not going to come here a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and hear completely radical new things, right? Because there's a basic foundational set of principles that we need as human beings. That doesn't change.
Principles over protocols.
Principles over protocols. Now, there's a ton of people out there making a ton of money talking about this protocol and that protocol, and they
peptides. Everybody's diving into peptides
change their
now.
protocol every couple of years based on what the trends are. What is the algorithm pushing today? So that's what I want to start talking about. My concept as a coach is I want to be a lighthouse. And instead of chasing people around as they go about their journey on the sea, trying to figure out what's going to work for them, I want to provide a light to bring people in, get them where they need to go, and then they can figure out the rest, or they can go to another thing as they go, right? Lighthouses don't move, but they keep people safe.
Yes.
And that's where I want to be. I'm not going to be moving around. I'm going to stick my foot in the sand, build my little tower of light, and bring people to the information that we have. So this is something that if you've been with us for a while, you've heard us talk about this stuff. If you're new, it may be the first time you're hearing some of these concepts, and it may blow your mind.
So we have to talk about it again and again. Yep.
So this is one of those things. By lighthouse concept or lighthouse topic, basically it means you're going to hear us. If you start following us today, a year from now, we're probably going to have this conversation again. Because it's not something that is ever going to go away. And
I think it can be, this is what inspired this topic, was that this is a conversation I've been having inside my Keto Bikini Academy lately, and it bubbled up to the radar. I was like, a lot of people are just discovering this information, whether they're brand new to the Academy or they joined a while back and they got this information when they first came in, but maybe they weren't ready for it yet.
Yeah.
So what I find in the Academy is that all of my introductory content it's a lot. You're not gonna
people are gonna miss things.
Glean onto everything at the same time. There's usually going to be a concept you may grab from that initial introduction, and then as you develop and learn and implement and apply these things in your journey, you need to go back to the basics and hear something again that you might have missed the first time because you weren't ready for it. So I find that same thing, we have to continue to repeat, because even if you've been in that community for a while, for all of my folks out there listening right now who have been in the keto carnivore space for a while, you probably didn't learn everything you're ever going to know about keto and carnivore and low carb living the first week that you started your journey.
Yeah, or the first couple of years. I mean, guys, I've been doing this for 7+ years. I've been doing in health and fitness for, gosh, almost 13 years now. And I'm still learning things, right? So the process of learning never stops. And even if there's things that you may forget and have to be like, oh, I totally forgot about that. I know, right? You know what? So it's just an ongoing thing. And then not to mention new people coming in.
Oh, absolutely.
There are I'm amazed and just in awe at times where I just sit back and think about how many people there are in the world and how little of a footprint we have and who's listening to what we have to say.
That's so true. Yeah.
And there's millions of people who have potential to hear something for the first time ever.
Yep.
You know, so.
And we hear that all the time. You know, I've been in this community for so long, but I'm just finding you two. And oh my gosh, like the light bulb moments and my head is exploding and I'm learning so much in such a short period of time.
Well, how long were you in the keto space before you even knew half the people you know today?
Oh, I mean, when I met you at that conference, it was the first time I ever went to a conference, and I was not aware of almost anybody
that was there.
Space. And I'd already been doing it for 6 years or something at that point. So yeah, absolutely. And then what you talked about being a lighthouse, there are new hot topics that come out that when we revisit things like today, the topic of today, you can apply those new things you're hearing about through the lens of the basics. And then to help
the lens of the basics. I like that.
What we really exist to do is help you own your journey. So if you're hearing about all of these new fangled things, if you can listen to the basics again, then it may help you to put some perspective on the new things and then help you decide whether or not it's something you even need to be thinking about right now.
Right.
So,
okay, so what is the topic?
Macros.
I think the core thing, there's 3 words that are going to be the basis for this entire conversation. Okay? Fuel, function, and adequate.
Okay.
Okay? I think everything's going to kind of fall under those 3 things, and we'll explain as we go through. What was the question? What was the comment or whatever that you came in and you're like, oh, we got to talk about this. So and so asked this question or whatever.
Okay, so I've been shifting macros for people inside the academy lately, helping them change the distribution of their macros.
Oh my God. I don't even think about talking about that. Okay, go ahead. Percentages and not ratios, or ratios, not percentages.
Right. So changing essentially how much fat and how much protein a person's consuming. And for some people, that also meant changing how many carbs. If they were eating higher carb, one of the kind of, I'll just say what it is right now, this theme that's coming up more and more is that usually when we introduce the topic we're talking about today, which is protein or functional macros versus fuel macros, what a lot of people learn is, protein is a building block. And fats and carbs are the energy or the fuel, right? And once you learn that, and then there's a thing I talk about, I explain, I call it the energy seesaw inside the academy. And so a lot of the time, once you learn that, and some of my ladies come in having already learned that from somewhere else, and so they've been doing this for a long time, jack up their protein. They're eating a lot more protein, which is usually, it's great. That is a wonderful thing. It's usually something we have to teach people in the keto space because a lot of people are not getting enough protein, right? But you can also go to the other end of that extreme where now you are eating way more protein than what your body really needs, and not eating enough fat. And so now you have this situation where you're just slamming the protein and barely getting enough fat to really support your hormones and all these other things we talk about fat being good for, right? So, and then I also have ladies who are learning not to fear carbs, learning to find their carb threshold, learning to play with carbs and learn what different carbohydrate sources are not
Detrimental.
not harming them, right? And learning like basically food tolerances, testing out, reintroducing carbs. So I might have ladies in the academy who are eating a lot of protein, maybe eating the same amount of fats and carbs. And as they bring their carbs up, we've brought the fats down. And that's part of this whole seesaw thing of not just jacking up fats and carbs together. And we're going to talk about that. But that means their fats are on the lower end, their carbs are a little bit moderate, and then their protein's really high. And then when we're talking about optimizing and maybe they're not getting the results that they want doing that, they want to play with getting back into ketosis, deciding whether, maybe I'm not in ketosis and maybe I could reap some benefits of being in a ketogenic state that I am no longer getting with these higher carbs, super high protein, and lower fat in the ketogenic space. So that's what we've been doing with a lot of ladies lately is bringing their fats back up, their carbs back down, and their protein down to meet their fat and into what really is Bronson, where he starts people with 1-to-1 by grams.
By mass, not by ratio, not by calories.
So the same number of grams of protein and fat.
Yeah, so let's talk about that concept.
And that's what prompted this discussion was when they're making this change, bringing calories into the discussion.
Or taking it out of the discussion.
Well, no,
in a way, right?
But that's what prompted this discussion was, hey, okay, I'm making this change. I'm going to 1-to-1, but I'm eating this. I'm taking collagen. This is really where it came from. I'm taking this collagen supplement, and it's pushing my protein over. So maybe I need to pull back on my fats.
Right.
To keep my
calories. Right. So, God.
And that's
just
what
that one
prompted,
statement has like 5 different things.
That's what prompted this entire discussion because I was explaining how. Actually, let me use the terminology I used there that I said, oh, you know what? I need to start using this terminology because I think it helps people make the connections of what we're going to talk about today, which is instead of thinking about, and I take my ladies into and out of deficits and surpluses depending on what season we're in. If we're in a building phase where we are trying to focus on building muscle, we go into a surplus or we stay at maintenance. And if we are focused on fat loss, we go into a deficit. Well, usually what comes along with deficit and surplus in your mind is calories. I'm either in a caloric surplus or a caloric deficit or at a caloric maintenance.
Or what commonly people say, energy, because they look at food as only energy.
But energy is not the problem. Calories are the problem. So this is where I explained, if you shift just this one little thing with your language, instead of talking about being in a calorie surplus or a calorie deficit, talk about it as an energy surplus or an energy deficit.
Or a fuel energy or fuel surplus or fuel deficit.
But specifically, they can use energy because if you understand macros, you understand that protein is not an energy macro. Carbs and fats are. And you're saying fuel, but I think it works fine to say energy or fuel. Energy and fuel is carbs and fats, not protein.
Not protein.
So instead of thinking about energy surplus and energy deficit as a calorie surplus or calorie deficit, this is where if you think about it as energy or fuel, you won't get mixed up in trading protein for fat or carbs.
Right. It's not
Because
a
they do not
total,
work the same in the
it's
body.
not a total intake equation.
Which is where you
Which
start
is where
going
a
when
lot
you're
of
thinking
people
about
start thinking,
calories.
which is the same reason, the same conversation that why we don't look at ratios of calories. Okay, because whenever you tie how much of any macro that you're taking in to how much of another macro you're taking in, you are by definition either getting more than you need or getting less than you need, because you're tied. You're tied. If I need more of this, I have to drop some of this. Well, what if your body needs more of that and you're dropping it because you got it makes the the impreciseness, if is that a word? The complexity of trying to manage that is actually where a lot of people are getting stuck.
Yeah.
Because they're doing one thing and chasing all these ratios. Guys, your ratio, if you're going to look at ratios, everybody's ratio is going to be completely different. So you cannot say I'm getting 70-30 and I'm keto and then be like, well, how come it's not working for me? Well, maybe your ratio is 65-35. Maybe, if you're going to look at it from that perspective. But you can't know that if you're always just going back and forth trying to meet these arbitrary numbers. The separation of functional macros and fuel macros, or like she was saying, energy macros, is protein and fat and carbs. So the general rule of thumb is whatever you're doing for your protein, find out what you need and stay there. In general, just stay there. If you want to adjust anything, you guys have heard the phrase, protein is the base and fat and carbs are the lever, right?
That's how I explain the seesaw.
The seesaw thing, right?
So,
protein is the base of the seesaw, and
protein is the base. If you don't have your protein set, the whole seesaw falls apart.
right.
The two ends are your carbs and your fats. And this is why, y'all, if you are cheating on keto, you have a recipe for fat gain. Because what's happening is if your carbs are high, your fats have to be low.
You need to, I feel like you need to
If your fats are high, your carbs have to be low. Or, which I hope a lot of ladies do, like I talked about, is find that balance where you can handle both, but it needs to be on this seesaw. If your carbs and your fats are high and your protein is low, I guarantee you're gaining fat. That is a recipe for fat gain.
For sure.
So that's what the problem is. If you're keto, but now you've eaten a bunch of carbs, and now you go back on keto, and now you've eaten a bunch of carbs, you just keep on putting all this fuel, and it's even worse when you're putting both carbs and fats in there together.
Yeah.
And usually these are the same people who say, how in the world do I hit my protein? I can't hit my protein macro because you're eating way too many carbs and fats.
This is where we talk about prioritizing protein, okay? Especially if you have body fat to lose. If one of your goals is to build muscle and lose body fat, then focusing on fat intake to maintain ketosis is probably part of the reason why you're stuck, okay? Getting enough protein, it's going to help you build muscle, recover, manage hormones, because protein is part of hormone management as well, okay? And then getting enough fat to help fuel you while you're not getting the carbs, okay, is really that balance that she's talking about, instead of focusing on ketosis, which is the fat, and then not getting the protein that you need for function, okay? Here's the, I love this, you guys know I love my car analogies. When we talk about nutrition, we're not just talking about the gas in our car. We're talking about the gas and the oil and the brake fluid and the transmission fluid and the air in our tires and our battery, and does our windshield wiper
The alternator.
Work, right? Do the lights come
brakes.
on? Does my blinker turn on when I need it to turn on? Does my seat move back and forth? Whatever. We're talking about the function of the vehicle. You are the vehicle. If all you're worried about is fueling it, that's fantastic. You got the best gas mileage in the world, except do you really if your engine's about to fall apart? Okay, and that's where the protein comes in. So you have to get both. Nutrition is all of it, and there's two primary. This is why we talked about, was it last week we talked about oxidative priority? Mm-hmm. Where we talked about how, the body processes macronutrients in a different order. It processes protein before it processes carbs and fat.
It just doesn't use it for
It doesn't use it for fuel, right? It's saying, hey, I got this protein. I need to make enzymes. I need to make hormones. I need to build muscle. I need to repair tissue. I need to grow hair. I need to build cells. All of these things that I need to do with these amino acids that are a priority for the function of your body. The fat and carbs provide the energy for those things to happen.
The very basics you will learn in any nutrition program that is actually accurate. That is true for all nutrition programs do get this right. You will learn that protein is made up of amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of the body. Mm-hmm. Every single tissue, organ, function of your body is made up of amino acids. So the simple way to think about this, protein builds. And this is the analogy I gave on our Zoom call the other day. You're trying to build a house, or build anything really. You're handing the construction worker the bricks to build the house. The bricks are the protein.
Yep.
It's the materials to build the house. If you don't give the construction worker any energy,
then they can't
any
take
fuel,
that brick and do anything with it.
They're just going to sit down and have a bunch of bricks sitting around everywhere.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any energy to work. If you only give them energy, they'll be running around, but the house isn't going to get built because there won't be any bricks.
Yep.
You need both. You need both. You need enough materials to build the house, that's the protein, and then you need enough energy to provide energy to the workers to do the work without so much energy that you're spilling over.
Right.
And that's what gets stored as fat. You get excess fat by having all this extra energy coming in that you're not using.
And this is where we talk about adequate. I told you adequate was going to be the word. So we talked about function, we talked about fuel. Let's talk about adequate. How do we know what we need? Right?
That's the big question, right?
That's the big question. How do we know how do I set my macros? How do we look at somebody and say, okay, here's where you should be at? We don't. What we do is we say, here's where you are.
Well, yeah.
Right? What are you doing now?
We start with where are you?
Right. Here's where you are. Yeah. What are you doing now?
Yep.
Are you getting the results that you want? Okay, if you're not, let's see what we can do to tweak it and improve your progress. And it is a process of small changes over time. If you are looking at your macros and trying to figure out what are the perfect macros for you in one shot,
give me my macros. I just need someone to give me macros.
Then you are setting yourself up for a false expectation and you will be disappointed. Okay? Because even if we could spin the roulette wheel and get the magic one that's going to work for you today, 6 months from now, it probably won't work. A year from now, it probably won't work. 5 years from now, it definitely won't work. Okay? You have to understand the process of figuring it out. And this is where the concepts of what we're talking about come into play. Okay?
Yep.
Find a starting point. Where you are is probably the best starting point. Now, if you don't know where you are and you haven't been tracking, okay, then we say, okay, well, a good place to start your journey or practice or tracking or wherever you are is I usually recommend take your lean mass or your goal body weight.
No, before that, though.
I'm saying if they have no idea what they're doing as far as how much they're getting.
Before that, the first step is start tracking what you're already doing.
Yes.
That's the step. That's the step everybody wants to skip. I had to back up because everybody wants to skip this step. Everybody's like, I'm having a hard time tracking, or
Right. None of
I'm
this
not
works if you're not
sure,
tracking.
or can you just give me somewhere to start and then I'll start tracking? No, I cannot. I have no idea where you
I
are.
will not do it.
And that's the thing. You join the academy, and I'm like, all right, we need to see a week. Just give me one freaking week, just 7 days straight with absolutely everything you're consuming. Because guess what? If you can't do that, it doesn't matter if I give you macros.
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Because you've shown that you cannot track for a week.
Yeah.
Which tells me you're not going to be able to track when I give you macros.
This is I'm going to back this up because this is a really good point, guys. You cannot have the conversation about macros if you're not willing to track your macros. There is absolutely no point in asking the question, how much of XYZ should I be intaking or doing if you're not tracking it? Okay? That
There's
it just
so much of that out
absolutely,
there.
yeah, it just absolutely doesn't it doesn't matter. If you're not
here's the
tracking
thing.
it, you can just go out and do whatever the hell you
I
want
was
to do.
going to say, if you don't want to track macros, by all means, you don't have to track macros. I did a masterclass on this recently.
Yep.
All the things you can do, all the low-hanging fruit you can start focusing on and make progress without tracking macros. That's entirely possible.
Absolutely.
So if you don't want to track macros, don't ask to be told how much you should consume, because you're already deciding you're not going to weigh your food and measure it. It doesn't make any sense for me to tell you how many grams of something to eat if you're not going to do that work. And that's fine if you don't want to do that work. Instead, you can focus on other things like, am I already building my meals around a quality protein source? You can do that without weighing and tracking.
There's a ton of stuff you can do without macros, right? Am I getting a serving, whatever that is, of protein at every meal? Am I eating that protein first? Am I making sure I'm getting protein and enough fat in every meal, or am I just eating lean meat? Right? I mean, there's a lot of things you could do that are general rules of thumb about how to look at your plate. But it's not the same. It's not as precise, and there is no way to identify the specific changes you're making and how they're affecting your progress. If you want to get the data and actually make the most informed decisions about what you're doing, you got to track it.
Yep.
At the macro level.
And if you're asking for macros, then you need to be prepared to do the work that comes with that.
Yes.
So
yes.
That starts with tracking where you're starting from. And by tracking where you're starting from, weigh and measure every single thing that you eat, no matter what, and everything that you drink that has macros in it.
Macros, if it has macros.
Even if it doesn't, I like to say, even if it doesn't.
If it goes in your mouth.
You might say, oh, I drink black coffee. And that has carbs in it, guys. It's literally bean juice.
We're going to talk about another aspect now that you said that, because that just...
If you're chewing gum, that has carbs.
Did you just say it's bean juice?
It is. Coffee is bean juice.
It's bean juice.
Did anybody not know that coffee is bean juice?
Oh, I just got a cramp in my side. Oh my God. Okay. What she just said, I want to key on, because it's a super important aspect of nutrition that everyone needs to understand. Not just for tracking, but just a concept of general nutrition. Anything that you put into your mouth, your body has to respond to. There is no such thing when we're talking about nutrition as no impact.
There's no free food.
Everything
free
affects your body. If I ate a piece of paper, my body has to do something with it. Okay? A piece of gum, my body has to do something. There is a response, biological, physiological response to everything you put in your body. That's why it's important that if you're tracking, you track all of it. Okay? This is one of the reasons why calories are killing people. Because the idea
You're
of
saying
no calories, free
means-
calories,
Yep.
your body still has a response. It may be a digestive response. It may be a hormonal response. It may be an inflammatory response, but it has a response. The calories don't mean squat, period.
Boom.
End of rant.
Mic drop.
End of rant.
Yes.
Okay.
So track it all. And while you're tracking it all, you also need to be tracking biometrics. Because if only, and this has happened with people in the academy as well, I will see a whole week of tracked macros, but I have no data about, well, what did the scale say? What was your weight and your body composition, your body fat, your skeletal muscle mass, your measurements? I don't have any photos. I don't have any biofeedback. I ask my ladies to track all that. If you don't track any biometrics or any biofeedback and you're tracking macros, what are the macros supposed to tell us?
Right.
I don't know what has happened with your body on those macros. I need both. So that's what you need to start with is ultimately, I would say, especially if you're doing this on your own without a coach, 2 weeks of this data at least.
Yeah.
A month of this data for you to really have some real data about what's happening with your body. Because ladies, what did I just mention at the beginning of this? My cycle had me gaining weight on the scale. It's changing my body composition on the scale because fluid balance changes how your scale reads body fat and lean mass. If I was tracking macros
This week, you'd be
just this week, I would think I'm eating too much. But y'all, I just cut my macros. If I thought I was gaining on these macros and then I had to cut again, I'd be freaking starving myself next week. So having multiple weeks of data helps me look at it and say, oh, look, okay, I was there. I started my cycle. It went up. I can't let this help determine how much I eat next week. I have to stay the course. So you got to track more than just a week, and you've got to track more than just one thing.
Yeah.
That's how you start before anybody gives you any numbers.
And when you understand what that looks like and you know where you're at, you can say, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's what I want to change. You may know after that first week or two, man, I'm only getting 50 grams of protein a day. I probably need to up my protein. That might be the only change you need to make initially.
I love the baby steps approach.
Right? That might be the only thing you need to change.
Maybe not trying to find magic macros and then to be perfect with hitting them immediately. That's going to be a lot for you, especially if you're not used to this.
Yeah. And most of the people that I've worked with, just increasing their protein over time has been the most challenging thing that they've needed to do, and it's been the most impactful.
And guess what else happens when you do that?
Oh, everything, the other stuff goes down.
You're naturally going to stop eating as much carbs and fats.
And fats.
Because if you prioritize the protein, you just don't have the space for the other stuff. The reason why, like I said before, you weren't eating enough protein before is because you were filling up on the junk.
Yeah, this goes into a couple of things. And this isn't macros per se, but this goes into the practicality of how do you get to your macros. Stop snacking, eat more at a single meal.
Eat real food.
Eat your protein first and eat real food.
And that will all happen if you just naturally, it'll happen more naturally if you just focus on getting enough protein in your day. Because the way that you do that is to do all the things he just said.
Right. Yep.
If you're trying to hit your protein by eating Quest chips, you're going to blow one of your other macros out of the water. I know a lot of y'all are still eating them damn Quest chips.
Bars and shakes.
Oh, God.
And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
There is not a single protein bar on the market where the protein is actually higher than the carbs and fats together.
Yeah.
And that's something, if y'all are not familiar with Ted Naiman and the PE ratio or the PE diet, I highly recommend watching, learning, reading his work, and you'll understand this concept even better. He talks about this protein to energy ratio. Mm-hmm. Really helpful.
Which is, I mean, that's where I got my one-to-one stuff, is his a lot of his work. Okay, so what do we need to talk about next? Oh, adequate. So
yes, How do you know?
Getting to where you need to be. Okay, we start with data. We start with making small changes from where you are. Prioritizing protein is usually a great first step. There maybe it's not even that. Talk about another change. Like you said, the whole food thing. Maybe it's not even I need more protein. Maybe it's just I need to stop eating packaged food. Maybe that's step number one, because here's another aspect.
Honestly, that should be step number one.
Well, because here's another aspect of this. Even if you're getting your macros bang on, you figured out exactly what your macros should be. If you're getting it from crap food, it's not doing for you what it could be doing for you.
I guarantee you're going to be hungrier. You're going to have more cravings.
The challenge of being consistent is going to be a lot.
You're not going to
harder.
be satiated. You're going to be looking for the next thing, because
Yeah.
all of that packaged stuff is creating a environment in your brain and body that is not getting the nutrients it needs. So you're devoid of nutrients.
Yep.
While you have the macros, the macronutrients, you're devoid of micronutrients, and your body's going to continue to crave more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to mention the additives that they put in these foods that make you want more on top of that. So
Yeah. Okay.
that's why they call it empty calories. Hate to say the whole calorie thing, but it's because
It's not nutrition.
You're getting energy, but you're not getting nutrition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Remember, guys, nutrition is function and fuel. Anytime anybody equates anything to calories, you're probably not getting the functional piece of that equation.
And function goes beyond protein too. It goes into micronutrients. This is
Yes,
I'm glad
electrolytes,
this came up.
minerals. Yes.
I gotta say this because I've seen some content lately about how to get your protein up, and they're like, eat egg whites and drink protein powder. I saw a guy talking about this the other day. Egg whites and protein powder do not have micronutrients. You're going to get protein from that, but that's basically all you're going to get from that. Unless it's a protein powder that's added micronutrients into it.
And even then.
And that is a supplement.
Yes, and even then,
it's
not as bioavailable because it's lacking the enzymes and the other activators that your body needs to fully break that stuff down and utilize it.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to say something, as much as you said it already, egg whites.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we've said this before, so it shouldn't be a shock to anybody to hear this.
Unless they're new.
If a majority of your keto food preparation involves egg white homemade products, you are likely undernourished. If most of what you're eating is based off of egg white products, you are likely undernourished.
Boom.
Okay? Egg whites have protein. If you're not getting the yolks, then you're wasting the egg. If you're focused on replacing bad food with egg white food, you're not getting any more nutrition than you were before.
So here's what I would say to that. And Blue Love got it. She said, use those to bridge the gap, but not for your base. And that is the way I would recommend using protein powders and egg white creations or egg whites in any form. If it's replacing desserts you would have been eating, that's a great step.
Yep.
Next thing is to look at how much of my overall intake is being taken up with that. Because if it's replacing desserts, wonderful. But if you realize that it's replacing standard American diet breakfast foods and desserts and snacks, and you realize that in addition to those things, you're only eating one meal a day, look at how much of your macronutrients you are getting from those
whole
foods.
food. Yeah. How much are you getting from whole food versus what you're making out of egg whites?
It is a great first step.
Yeah.
But at some point you have to say, well, if I was addicted to all these standard American diet foods and it was taking up the majority of my diet, and so now the majority of my diet is being taken up by replacements, then it's time to make another change.
Yep. Yep. All right. Let's talk about what happens. Do we want to talk about when is it okay? Here's a question. When we talk about macros, is it possible to get fat eating fat?
Of course it is.
How does that work? But I thought being ketogenic meant my body was so awesome at burning fat.
Oh, I'm just going to poop out the extra.
Yeah, I'm going to
and
poop
then it
out
won't
the
get
extra.
Fat. That's not true, unfortunately. Sorry, Al. You can't just eat all the fat ad libitum and not gain
Yeah,
fat.
there's a couple of myths around all of this that I think we could say really quick. Just run them down. Can you get fat eating fat?
Yes.
Okay. Does protein turn to chocolate cake in your blood?
No.
Okay. Here's one that I saw in a conversation in a
But
group
wait,
yesterday.
first, you mean do I have to worry about protein turning into sugar
right.
and knocking me out of ketosis? No.
No. Now, there's some extreme cases and there's context there, but in general, no. If you're getting what you need, it's not something you need to worry about.
Now,
if you're trying to shove 3 times your body weight of protein and you're not getting any fat, that's a whole different story.
I was going to say, that ties into the egg white products.
Exactly. Oh,
if
it
you're
does,
existing
right.
on all these egg white products and you're eating 200, 2 or 3 times your body weight in protein and you're getting half of your body weight or less in fat.
And you're not eating much fat at all.
You're probably absolutely not in ketosis. You are not reaping the benefits of a keto diet beyond probably fat loss.
Well,
you probably have gotten fat loss, but
so here's the thing.
You're not getting nutrition, as we talked about.
Yeah, here's the thing, and this is more of an this is a subgroup in the keto space. Something that we see a lot. People that have lost a lot of fat, who are now fairly lean, who are afraid of gaining fat, so all they do is eat protein and don't eat fat.
Yes.
Okay, and now what they're doing is they're overeating the protein, and now that protein is giving them issues, okay, where they actually now are under fat. They don't have enough fat. They can't build muscle.
Yes.
Right? Their body is actually like working overtime,
starving and eating itself. Yeah.
Like because they're not giving their body the general spread of what they need for fat and protein.
Absolutely. We see this actually
a lot of women do
often.
That. They are so lean that their body is just eating itself up.
Because it's what they call rabbit starvation. It's like if you tried to eat only rabbit, you would be only eating protein. And it's what they also call protein sparing modified fasting, where you're only eating protein. You are your body's trying to hold on to its muscle. And likely you're doing that, but you're certainly not gaining muscle. And you're so lean that yes, now at this point, you don't have enough fat on your body to support all of your body's functioning.
When you're doing that, your body is using the protein. It's not supposed to. It doesn't want to, but your body is using the protein for fuel.
It has to because you're not giving it any other substrate.
Right? Yeah. And it's counterintuitive. Now, one macronutrient is trying to build and break down at the same time.
Yes. And this is not to this extreme, but this is what I was talking about earlier, and that lately I'm shifting macronutrient breakdown for some of my academy members where they weren't to that extreme of like so low protein and so low fat and such high protein, but they were eating well over their body weight in protein and well under 100 grams of fat. And so I said, I like to call this energy purgatory, where you can be in this kind of energy purgatory where you're not really giving your body optimal levels of energy macros, or you're in that kind of moderate carb, lower fat camp to where you're not really in ketosis, you're not really a sugar burner because you're getting both fats and carbs and your protein is sky high. Yep. And so you're not really optimized with the energy production. So that's why I'm trying shifting these macros for them.
What was the other thing I was going to say? The third thing.
Adequate? We talked about adequate.
No, we were just talking about what are some of the myths, right? So
the myths.
protein's not going to
Yes.
turn into sugar. You can get fat on
fat.
Crap, there was a third one. I don't remember what it was now.
I don't either.
It'll pop in my head later.
Myths.
But Karen asked a question. How do I calculate my ratio? Is it protein grams divided by carb grams? Okay. So here's...
What? Oh, Debbie asked that.
Oh, Debbie, sorry.
Okay. How do I calculate PE ratio?
I was thinking that was, I got the names wrong.
Yeah, the PE ratio.
PE ratio, yeah. So, okay. So here's this is where I was going initially, way back when we first started talking. Once a good place to try and get to as a balance, okay, is what I call 1 to 1 to 1. Okay. So I use your lean mass with your protein and your fat, or fuel macros, whatever. It's a combination of fat or fat and carbs, carbs and fat, however you want to do that. So
protein to energy, basically.
Protein to energy. So I don't compare the two and make a decision on either of them, protein or energy, based on each other. I do it off of a third metric, which is how much my body weighs, or my lean mass, right? So it's not a ratio that is, if my protein changes, my energy changes. It's not that at all. I'm setting both of the numbers to be the same based on my lean mass. Okay, so that's how I do it. So if I weigh about 185, my lean mass is about 165. So my base when I'm starting is I want to try to get 165 grams of protein and 165 grams of fuel. Now, I'm carnivore. I follow a carnivore diet. So most of my grams of fuel are going to be fat. I get between 5 and 15 grams of carbs a day at the most, mostly from eggs and sometimes cheese.
Or peanut butter.
Or peanut butter every once in a while.
Lately.
Somebody got me peanut butter a couple weeks ago and I can't
stop.
And
now it's on the regular grocery list.
So there's changes that I make based on how those numbers work for me. So as an example, if I'm trying to lean out, I'm going to start at 165. And then I'm going to say, okay, 165 for 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. What does that do to my body? Oh, I'm gaining body fat. My body fat percentage is going up. Okay, let's drop that down to 155 for 3-4 weeks. What's happening? Oh, I'm still gaining. Okay, let's drop that down to 145. What happens again for 3 to 4 weeks? Oh, I started losing. Oh, okay, so somewhere between 155 and 145 is my maintenance or my loss. So I know if I can keep that at a certain level, maybe I'm fine. I can handle 145. It's not a big deal. And then I can just slowly lose that body fat over time. And it's not a strain on my routine. I don't feel hungry, whatever it may be. You basically track it, see what happens, and then you can make small adjustments up or down based on how it's doing.
So I want to offer a caveat here, because that works great for fit men or unfit men. It works great for unfit, overweight females. For lean females, I would not recommend going that low. I would start higher. I would start with your total body weight rather than your lean mass. If you are a lean female, let me use myself as an example. Example. My lean mass, 94 pounds.
Yeah, not enough.
So if I did that, I'd be eating 94 grams of protein and 94 grams of fat at the most. If I have some carbs in there, now my fat might be 80 grams and maybe 15 grams, 14 grams of carbs, right? That's barely any food, y'all. That's barely anything. That's not going to be enough. My total body weight is around 115 right now. Even for me as a bodybuilder, that's pretty low, even if I were to do that. If I were to do 115 protein and 100 fat or 15 carbs, that's not terrible.
Yeah.
Actually, because for most women, I would say minimum
100.
Any woman, no matter how small you are, y'all, I'm 5 foot tall, barely, and 115 pounds soaking wet. So I'm telling you, if you are a small female, I would not ever go below 100 grams of protein and 100 grams of fat, ideally.
Yeah.
On a cut, you can go under 100 grams of fat, but I love 100 grams of fat for maintenance.
And on a cut doesn't just mean I want to lose weight fast. Okay. On a cut, she's talking about I'm getting ready for a show. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I have a reason to get leaner than my health needs me to be.
And I would say,
right?
honestly,
That's a whole different conversation. Right?
At the weight that I am at now, this is my maintenance. This is a happy maintenance place. Mm-hmm. There's no reason why I should be
happy maintenance place
eating less fat than that.
Yeah.
For maintenance. Actually, and let me just give you all my actual numbers lately.
100.
Before I started this cut, 100,
mm-hmm.
100%.
Mm-hmm. That's your numbers.
10 out of 10. Mm-hmm. Before I started this cut, y'all, my protein and fat were both at about 130 to 150 grams. And carbs were more like anywhere from 20 to, usually 20 to 30, but could be up to 50 if I wanted to have a higher carb day. So think about how much more that is for somebody my size. And that's for maintenance, right? I'm not even eating as low as we just mentioned. I'm not eating 100 and 100 right now. I'm still eating more than that of both.
Yep.
On this cut. So that's why I give that caveat for my lean ladies. Lean being if you are in a healthy body fat percentage for women and a healthy weight.
Yeah,
you're not underweight. You're not too lean, like we talked about earlier, having barely any body fat on you. Mm-hmm. We're talking about at a healthy maintenance place. So my ladies, though, who are obese, you can use his numbers and they would work well for you because your lean body mass is also going to generally be higher.
Yeah, I'm going to caveat that even another level of context is that understand the principle isn't about the numbers you're using. The principle that you need to understand in this entire process is the process of looking at what you're doing, tracking it, seeing how it works, and then making changes. It doesn't matter what number you base it on or start it with. Just understand that your protein and your fuels are managed independently and track it.
Track it.
That's all that really matters. You could start wherever you want to start.
That's true, yes.
Understand what the process is and then work the process.
That's the lighthouse.
That's what matters, okay? So
yes.
We could give you 18 different ways to start, what number to pick, how to look at it. It doesn't make a difference.
And
pick something.
Yep.
And then start tracking it and make changes. Trends will make your journey.
And that's why I like to say, before trying any calculations, just see what you're already doing.
Yep.
You will get so much knowledge and information and insights just from looking at what you're already doing. Yeah. If you notice, oh my God, I'm eating 300 carbs and 150 or 200 fat grams and I have 50 grams of protein, you already know where to go from there. And you do not need to jump to some calculation because that would be a disaster to try to say, oh, well, Coach Bronson said, calculate my lean mass and da-da-da-da. Okay, I'm going to go from eating 4,000 calories.
Completely opposite of that.
To go from where I was to where he says to go is going to be, you're going to be starving yourself to death if you try to do that. So look at what you're already doing. You will likely already see where you can improve. Yeah. And then focus on what can I do to improve this.
And again, we talk about small changes, not big changes. When you do that, you're going to see there might be 2 or 3 or 4 things that you identify. Hey, I probably shouldn't do that. I need to do that. You don't have to do all of them at the same time. Like we talked about, if one of the things you need to change is getting more protein, and the other one is getting more whole food, and the other one is not snacking, maybe just attack one of those things and then work that until you understand how to make that a consistent part of your life and then move on to the next thing. Don't try to just overhaul everything about your nutrition overnight because it's not going to work.
That's a recipe for failure.
Cool.
Oh, I had some questions in here.
You do? Okay.
Baby Girl says, when is your next show? The Arnold Fashion Show is March 1st in Columbus, Ohio at the Arnold Sports Festival. But that is not a competitive show. That we are just going to be essentially walking in the Angel Bikinis.
Walking around in bikinis, showing off your booty.
And doing a photo shoot.
And I won't be there.
I know. But
I get to look at all the pictures though.
my assistant coach, Coach Mary Grace, is going to be with me, and she's going to be walking in the show too. Her first time ever on stage, so I'm excited about that.
Oh God, I hate these glasses.
And then I have just put it out there in the world, and so now I have to keep putting it out there, so I hold myself accountable and actually do it. I have decided to do the FMG Dallas, FMG Texas show April 19th. So that'll be my first competitive show of the year. So we will be continuing the cut for another 7 weeks past the fashion show. And so that's 11 weeks out from right now. That'll be my first show of the year. All right. What else? I know I had something else in here.
Yeah, Debbie, that is ridiculously low, those proteins. So remember, dietary guidelines are based off of what the minimum amount of nutrient you need is to not die, right? So whenever we're looking at that, that is definitely not a target. It is a minimum.
What are you talking about?
She said the dietary guidelines for Americans.
Oh, the guidelines? The guidelines are horrible.
They're horrible.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is literally to keep you from dying.
Yeah. And
that's what most people,
it's not going to keep you living well either.
Yeah, most people really have this wrong, y'all. Most of the RDAs are minimums.
Yeah, just keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind.
Minimums, not targets, minimums.
And certainly not stay under this, which some people get that wrong with the protein RDA.
Right.
Oh my God, you better not eat over the protein. You will literally be killing yourself if you don't eat over the protein RDA. I'm guessing the coffee ran through him.
We got to change this to be something else.
Change what?
Coffee talk.
Oh boy. Okay, so since he's stepped away, do y'all have any questions? Drop some questions if you have any questions about macros or about anything else that you want help with, and I'll just answer questions until he gets back so we can sign off together. Pilar, my girl Pilar is on YouTube chat. She said, I love the advice for lean women. On point. Yes, ma'am. Look, y'all, my focus, one of my big missions in life is to stop women from under eating, because it's just ridiculous. The amount, it's what we've been conditioned to believe and programmed to believe throughout our lives, is that we should eat less, we should be smaller, we should always be seeking, losing weight on the scale. And for too many of my ladies, that means you have lost muscle and you don't have muscle. And that is the biggest problem for women over 40 entering menopause. We will literally wither away without muscle. Osteopenia, osteoporosis, sarcopenia are rampant for women when we start losing our estrogen. So, ladies, you need to be eating more, training, lifting heavy things. Stop the dieting, y'all. You got to kill the dieting. Something I blew minds with in my academy recently is this concept of even for my ladies who are over fat, who have too much body fat and do need to actually lose body fat, if you were to take an entire year of just focusing on building muscle, eating enough protein, fats, overall intake to sustain your activity to build muscle and to train to build muscle, to work out to build muscle. If you did that for 6 months to a year without thinking about trying to eat less, dieting down, losing body fat, you would, I guarantee, you would change your body composition, So your body fat percentage would be lower because you would put on muscle, but also because you're putting on muscle, you will be able to eat more and handle more food without gaining body fat, and you would actually lose body fat in the process of eating more. You will eat more, you will get leaner, you will change your body composition, you will look leaner, you will look better, and you will actually lose body fat in the process. I'm thinking about putting out a challenge because a lot of the ladies in my academy have decided to commit to this in 2025, to end the diet and just focus on maintenance and working out, training for muscle gain. And you will actually completely transform your body doing that without freaking dieting and starving yourself and seeking, just focusing on fat loss. So that's one of my passion projects in life now. Evelyn asks, great question. What are your thoughts on PSMF? Babe, are you ready for this? What are your thoughts on PSMF for still overweight people? With the idea being it uses your body fat for fuel. Here's what I will say to that. You do not need to do PSMF to achieve that goal. As I just talked about, you could do it while eating enough for your body of both protein and fat and training to build muscle.
Yeah, there's some nuance to that. My preference would be that you would, instead of trying to, so here's another mindset shift, okay? We have to get away from thinking that our health is determined only by what we eat and doesn't include what we do.
Big time.
Okay?
Yep, big time.
Just like we talk about nutrition is function and energy, function and fuel, your body has to move consistently and be physically challenged consistently in order to maintain and improve how it functions. So if you are not exercising, moving weight, moving your body, giving yourself some physical stress on a regular basis, you will not be as healthy as you possibly could. Your metabolic function is going to go down. So if you are just looking at nutrition as the solution to improve everything about your life, you are missing the big piece of fitness, okay? Fitness will do for you all of the other things that you need. You don't have to do any kind of fasting. Just get the nutrition that you need and move your body. I would rather see you implement a regular fitness routine than do PSMF. I would rather see you start lifting some weight on a regular basis than do a 72-hour fast. All of the things that you're doing to be ketogenic are the same things that a fast will do for you if you're getting adequate nutrition, and it will work better if you are also exercising.
Literally,
Period.
Exercise does exactly what fasting does.
Exercise plus a ketogenic diet does it even better than fasting. So this is one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy about all these freaking fasts, okay? Nobody's working out. Guys, nutrition is not going to do it all for you. If you aren't moving your body and you're not lifting and building muscle, then you are going to fall apart no matter how much you're not eating. And if you're not eating and not training, you're going to fall apart even faster.
Oh my gosh. Talk about brittle bones. And
you cannot build metabolic function by starving yourself. It doesn't work that way.
Yes.
Okay? Don't get me started, guys.
Seriously, though,
Okay.
You know what? You just touched on something so key. Because we see this it's so big it's rampant in the keto community because a lot of y'all came to keto because you didn't want to work out.
That's the attractive thing to a lot of people. I lost all this weight and all I did was
and I didn't have to work out.
Yeah.
You are not improving your life.
Yeah. No, that's not. So
That's not true.
Yeah.
You are.
There are a lot of
You're making
improvements that you can
improvements. You're
get.
making
There's a lot of
improvements.
metabolic improvement. There's a lot of quality
Yes.
of life improvement. But here's the thing. They will not last if you're not doing the exercise piece. I can lose a ton of weight. You know how hard it is? How hard it would be to maintain my dietary routine if I wasn't also lifting and exercising and doing all the other stuff?
Yeah, and all that
Right?
stuff too. Here's the thing: where do you go from there? That's the question. Is where do you go from there? You're doing PSMF now. You're doing these extended fasts because you don't want to work out. Well, if that's all you're relying on, you're just going to have to fast longer and longer until you're just never eating anything at all.
Right.
Is that really where you want to go in your future?
Not at all.
If you want to ever be able to eat more, eat normally,
Normally, yeah.
and
Let's not start that.
and maintain your weight, maintain your
Composition
results,
and health. Yeah.
you can't just keep eating less.
It's the same thing with cardio, right? It's the same reason why you can't just do cardio. Because if you're using cardio as a way to lose weight,
just gonna have to
you just
keep
keep
adding
doing
more
more and more and
cardio.
more cardio till you're doing cardio 24 hours a day.
Now,
if it's going to do anything.
before we get to this next question, I want to go back to the PSMF thing.
Okay.
Thoughts on PSMF for still overweight people? Why does it have to be PSMF?
Ooh.
It's like he's saying about the fasting, right? There's a world between PSMF and just pulling back 10 grams of fat. Why does everybody want to jump to freaking PSMF all the time?
Yeah.
Like what we just talked about, figure out where you are. If you're eating 200 grams of fat right now, you don't have to go to 20 grams of fat tomorrow.
Right. You guys,
Just pull back a little bit. Y'all are so afraid to make small changes, and you just want to make these crazy, insane, extreme differences.
It's there's a
That you can't
mindset
sustain.
that if I'm listening to music, I either have to put it down so I can barely hear it, or I have to blast my neighbors out. It's either on 1 or it's on 10. There's a whole world in between, right?
When I do a cut for a show, I start with my high levels
Yep.
and I slowly pull back a little bit at a time. That's how I get to the stage. And that's how I get that lean without losing muscle mass, without feeling like death, without feeling crappy, not to
Yep.
mention the fact that I do it without the carbs. So that's another reason why.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's y'all need to stop this extreme stuff. No, I will tell you, nobody ever needs to go PSMF. You literally never have to do it. You can make all the results without ever going that low.
I'm gonna say never is a hard word because I have used PSMF to help people get out of to
but
make
they
breakthrough.
don't have to use
That's
it.
true. Okay, that is true. You don't.
They don't have to.
use it.
There's never a time where you have to do PSMF.
Yeah,
period.
it is a tool, but you don't. There's nothing that says you have to use every tool in the toolbox to reach your journey. You could potentially build the whole house without using one of the tools that you have in the toolbox.
You could do it without ever fasting.
Yeah, absolutely. So then this question is, where should I start? Thank you for these questions, Evelyn, by the way.
Yeah, these are great.
Where should I start with fitness? I've increased my step count as a challenge starting this year. That's awesome. I'm old, fat, and out of shape. Aren't we all? How do I start without overwhelming my body and my mind? Join Keto Bikini Academy. Seriously. I have some programs. If you go to my website, CoachBronson.com, I have some free downloadable programs for beginners that you can kind of start with if you want to. It's one of them you can do at home. The other one, if you want to go to the
I would
gym
actually
and just
say,
do some machines.
if all you're doing right now is walking,
Yeah.
then starting with his free stuff is awesome because it'll get you started on
Right.
the very basics of just using your body weight.
Using your body weight, getting into a routine, getting it in your schedule, and doing something that's going to challenge you physically every day.
Now, if you want a place where you can get specific strength training workouts, resistance training workouts, anywhere from beginner up to advanced, and a supportive community, and we will hold your hand every step of the way through, then yes, come join us in the Bikini Academy. It is not for bikini competitors. I have
It's for bodybuilders, and you're all bodybuilders.
You're all a bodybuilder if you are lifting weights or your body weight. If you're trying to build your body, you're a bodybuilder. So Keto
You should have a
Bikini,
t-shirt
don't let the
that says-
bikini, don't let the bikini
It's
scare you.
You should have a t-shirt that says "Build Your Body, Build Your Life," KBB.
Ooh, I like it. Okay, I'll put it on the list.
Everybody's a bodybuilder.
Yes. If you have a body, you're a bodybuilder.
Cool. All right, guys, we've been on for an hour and 15 minutes. We should probably stop. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. No idea what we'll talk about next week, but if you have any questions, ideas for us to talk about stuff, whatever it may be, just let us know. And
we had a question about how we met. I know we've told that story a million times.
Oh my God, yeah.
I wish I could point to exactly which episode we shared that.
It's one of our earlier Coffee Talk episodes. So if you go back to this playlist on my YouTube channel, Coffee Talk with Coach Bronson and Coach Nat, there is an episode where we talk about how we met.
Yeah.
I believe.
The short answer is some things don't stay in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah. She was a go-go dancer in Vegas, and I went to this club, and
we actually did go to the club.
We did go to the club. Little John.
You did see me
I did see a little
up on the screen.
In front of my face. What are you talking about? You got up on the thing right in front of me. I felt like I needed to pull some I needed to pull some ones out or something.
At the club, I did.
She's like, I just met this guy. See my ass?
I hate that that's actually true. And we have not been back to any club ever since.
No, we have not. We have not. We didn't even really enjoy it there. Like it was like an hour and a half, and we're like, "Are we done with this yet?" Like,
we were yawning at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. See you guys.
Hi guys.